Good morning, CLC. I invite you now to take a nice, deep breath. Allow your body in this moment to just relax, clearing away any thoughts you may have about what's going on or what may be coming up. Just let everything go for now. And if you feel so inclined, take another nice, deep, cleansing breath. And as you breathe out, just let your shoulders and your chest relax. And allow your mind to be here, now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, in seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words: I accept. knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me. I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or a mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
Well, good morning. You know, I sit up here every Sunday and I turn around and there you are. When I sit down, there are like 3 people in the room. So, yeah, welcome, Evan. That was awesome. Great to have you with us. 2 weeks ago, he showed up. He had a bag. We talked. He had a bag at his feet. He pulled out a book. He pulled out another book. He pulled out a flute. He said, I play the flute. So let's go meet Jeffrey. The rest is history. We have a band. Let's get the kids together. Put on a show. We can use the old barn. You ever watch, anyway, Andy Hardy movies? Speaking of watching, I encourage you to watch the 75th Annual Tony Awards tonight. If you'd like a break from the world and everything in it, watch the Tony Awards. Wonderful performances. New shows you haven't seen. They haven't toured yet because COVID had kind of reined everything in. A couple of revivals are up for awards. And there's a story, Jennifer Hudson could win a Tony tonight, which would make her one of a very small select group of winners of Tony, Grammy, Oscar, and what's the 4th one? Tony, Grammy, Emmy. Tony, Grammy, Emmy, and Oscar-y awards. And Juwan Jackson, I love this story. Juwan Jackson was auditioned for a part playing a member of the Temptations in Motown, the musical that was based on Berry Gordy's memoir. Got the part, just did wonderfully at it. They made a musical focused on the Temptations music called Too Proud to Beg, from the song Ain't Too Proud to Beg. He was invited to audition for that, got the part as a member of the Temptations. He's up for an award tonight. But the most exciting thing for him this week, he was invited to join the Temptations for their 60th anniversary tour. Talk about dreams coming true. Talk about dreams coming true. And dreams lasting. You know, I want to give a shout out to Isabel Gans, who was our guest musician last week. Wasn't she sweet? Wasn't she awesome? Yeah. And that story, thank you so much for making that happen, Mary and Jeffrey. She told a story which I don't know if it's been stripped out of the video yet because the music is copyrighted and all, but anyhow, she told a story about going to a music camp when she was a young girl, and she fell ill and they put her in the infirmary, and to her great dismay, she was going to miss the guest touring pro musician featured at the camp, who was Pete Seeger. And he found out that she was in the infirmary, and he climbed a tree and shinnied up the drain pipe and all that. He went in the infirmary window and sat with his banjo on his back and sat at the foot of her bed and played her a song. And isn't that excellent? Yeah. And she's telling us this story many, many decades later. And you can tell that it's informed her work. It's informed her career path as a musician. It's something that just lives with her. So anyway, what I want to get into today is divine and human nature. And this is riffing on last week's talk, which is riffing on the talk of the week before, which all has to do with there is no separation between the source of who we are and who we are, except for the separation that we might insert in there by virtue of false beliefs, a misunderstanding of our own nature as it stands. We have the capacity to do this. Or to put it another way, somebody asked me a while back, they said, are we broken? Are people broken? And there's a very clear and emphatic answer to that, which is yes and no. No, in the cosmic sense. Sometimes yes, in the personal, private, local, microcosmic sense, because we've let ourselves down. Or to quote the immortal philosopher, God King of my life, George Carlin, when he said, sit with this a minute, because this guy was not nearly as snarky off stage as he was on. He said, scratch a cynic and you find a disillusioned idealist. Right? Scratch a cynic and you find a disillusioned idealist. Or to quote another person, who I think was Buckminster Fuller, there are no geniuses, some of us are just less damaged than others. Things happen along the way that cause us to reinterpret ourselves in a negative light. And because of how spiritual law works, how we interpret ourselves is how we get to show up in the world until we discover that it's because of how we're interpreting ourselves that we're showing up in the world in that way. Which is to say that how we show up in the world feeds back to us information about the stand that we've taken in our own consciousness. We're largely oblivious to all of this. And complicating matters somewhat is that religion has not helped. Organized religion of every stripe has not helped. Because religion has tended to say to people, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. And we can fix it. We can, I'll never forget, we had our basic class, which we call Heartfelt Living here. It's the foundations course in the science of mind. And at some point in the past, we had opening night of this class, and a newcomer to the center, after sitting there for a few minutes, and everybody told their stories, and we kind of went over the logistics of the class. She raised her hand and she said, does my life have to be a mess to be in this class? Because a couple of people had indicated that they felt their lives were kind of a mess, and that was why they were in the class. And if your life is a mess, something like that can only help. But it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement for entry into this teaching that there be something wrong with you that we can fix. That you're not cheerful enough, you're not prosperous enough, you don't have enough friends. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with anybody. I was reading a story this week. I realize I'm giving you a lot of stories off the bat, but this is so you can just kind of index through them in your mind as we go along here, you know? And one of them will click. I'm knowing this, that 50 years from now, one of these stories you'll look back on like Isabel looks back on Pete Seeger. You'll be like, oh, this is good. So I'm reading a story this week about a man who was raised a Christian, and this is no attack on Christians, and he married a Jewish woman, and this is certainly no attack on Jewish people. He was not an active participating Christian. He'd just been baptized and confirmed and so forth, and then he kind of lost interest along the way. And she was not an observant Jew. But they fell in love and they got together, and she said, I would like to raise our children, because our children will be Jewish, because if your mother's Jewish, you're Jewish. It's matrilinear. She said, I'd like to raise our children in Judaism. And without knowing a thing about Judaism except what she'd told him during their courtship, he said, sure, fine. But he said, I should learn more about this. And she said, well, why don't we go find a synagogue and you see what you think. And we'll meet the rabbi, and we'll attend for a while, and you'll see what you think. So they did. And he wound up converting to Judaism. And he said the reason, he's a musician, why I read this is he's a cowboy musician, he's a country musician who converted to Judaism, which the writer of the article and everybody reading it thinks is kind of like different, you know. It's kind of the hook of the article. But he said the reason I converted to Judaism was not specifically because my wife is Jewish or because our child or children were going to be, but because it was the first place that I went in. The rabbi says to me, God loves you just the way you are. And for this man, the heavens opened. And he said, I'm in. If I got to learn Hebrew, I'm in. Whatever it takes. Here, yep. Because nobody had ever told him that before. They told him what was wrong with him. That he was born in sin, conceived in sin, lived in sin, would probably die in sin. And it weighed on him, and he shook it off. Like, you know, I don't need this. I want to succeed in life. I want to be happy. I want to be peaceful. So where did he go before he went to the synagogue? He went into his memory of his grandfather, who was not a religious man either, but what his grandfather had said to him is, God is everywhere. You just got to look. He heard this when he was this high. God's everywhere around you. You just got to look. And so that had been his spiritual faith until he found an articulation of spiritual faith in the system of Judaism that he got into. Now, the question that I have as I read this article, and it's a wonderful article, and including the hook about his music. We might look him up. He's local. But the question I have is, why is this so hard? Why is this so hard? Why do you have to go scouring the earth for a place that tells you you're all right? Because fixing you sells, you know? It's an industry. It's an industry. There's something wrong with, not just in religion, but look at the ads on TV and the internet and everything. There's something wrong with you. You could be this, you could be that. You could have you're working too hard. You need to rest. So we're going to have a workshop on rest, you know? I think we should do that sometime. We should have a workshop on rest. We're going to call it, don't just do something, stand there. Or you've rested long enough. Now get up and get busy because you need to compete and win, win, win. The God of my understanding says there's nothing wrong with you except the stuff you make up or the stuff that you buy that somebody else made up that you take in and you make it your operating system and all. But all of that is subject to change. Why? It's a science of spiritual psychology, and the way I've started putting it to myself lately is it's as though there's a third party in the room. That's kind of a riff on Emerson, where he says behind each of us, Jove nods to Jove, you know. There's a third party in the room, which is our source. It's like the mothership, you know, there's our source. In other words, there's me with my opinions about myself, you with your opinions about yourself, and then God, whose only opinion of you or me is that we are the beloved. And all the rest is fine print. All the rest is addenda. All the rest we make up along the way about who we are and how we are. So when I can get clear on the fact that when I'm relating to you, I'm relating to God as you, and when you're relating to me, you're relating to God as me. And if you don't like the word God, substitute hastily, please, another word. Source, ultimate ground of all being, that which is the great I am, whatever you want to call this thing, the place from which we all emanate. That's a line Michael Bernard Beckwith uses. I love that we are emanations. We've split hairs on this in New Thought for a long time. Are we expressions of God? Are we parts of God, pieces of God? Michael says we're emanations. I love that. So we're all emanations of the one. Behind my opinions, behind your opinions, stands this one. And then we feel all right. then we do the next right thing. So what I aim to do in my work is heal the apparent separation of self from source, heal the apparent separation of divine nature from human nature. We've been taught that human nature is corrupt and base and greedy and miserable and all the rest of this, and divine nature is angelic and sweet, and there's a lot of harp and probably flute music too. But it's all different. It's all otherworldly and out there. And down here, we're just kind of scrambling over stuff, accumulating things, casting lots for the garment, so to speak. Well, I think that's bogus, frankly. I think the divine nature infuses everything. And we decide to do with it. We decide, as Ernest Holmes put it, who's the actual founder of this teaching, I realize he gets quoted about once every 20 quotes that we give, but he actually is the founder of this teaching. He says, we partake of the divine nature to the degree that we are aware of it. Okay? We partake of the divine nature. It's there, and we partake of it or take part of it. But it's not exhausted or limited by our taking that part. We sort of give the part back. You know what I mean? It's like we draw down the energy when we're conscious of it, when we're conscious that such a thing exists. And there are 1,000 ways to do this, or more, millions probably, through forms of prayer, through forms of recognition of oneness, forms of surrender, turning our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand God, and on and on. So the question is, what's your way? Pick a way. Pick a way to do it. And you know what else you can do that's really cool, which I think you get in this place from seeing these banners, among other things, is that you can mix and match. You can mix and match. I read a thing the other day that said, do you know that people have been cherry picking from the Bible for a really long time, that it's not just part of the new political scene to come up with, well, here it says in 1 Timothy that you should do this, you know, but that people, of course they have. And they've been cherry picking from the Vedas, and they've been cherry picking from the Zendavesta and all of the sacred works of the world. People have been drawing out what they need, and they've been combining it with other things. Life is a banquet, but actually life is, I'll tell you what, life is not really a banquet. Life is a smorgasbord. Life is a buffet. In a banquet, people serve you. And then you have, what, a caste system, right? You've got waiters at a banquet. Banquet waiters, they call them. And they all unveil your food at the same, they're supposed to be trained to do this, you know. But actually, life is a buffet. It's a smorgasbord. Everything is laid out before us, and we pick what we want. We say, ooh, I like this. Deviled eggs, you bet. I love some of this, but I can't take it all because other people will want some. And then there's this. And now what is this? This looks strange. I've never seen this before. And then you learn something about yourself right there, don't you? Do you go to the strange and unknown? Or do you shy away from it? Wait for somebody else to have it and see if they gag, you know, or if it's something you want. Well, that's how life is with our belief systems. We pick and choose what to think about ourselves, when to be silly, when to be serious, what to focus on, and how to feel our feelings. And this is a big question that comes up, and I realize I keep kicking stuff on down the road. We're going to take this up next week, this next part. But a question comes up about our feelings. People will say, okay, I'm supposed to be positive, right, about my life and all. But every now and then I have a negative feeling. I have anger, or I have sadness, grief of some kind. Am I like short-circuiting my spiritual program if I go into those feelings? No. Well, come back next week and I'll give you no why, but it's no, just don't dwell there. And how not to dwell there is remember the third party. That's the overarching source of everything. Go to that. See, it's tough to buy sometimes this idea that God is neutral, but it is. It created everything, you as an emanation. And you get to have the experiences of your life such as you navigate your way through your life. If the power that made you could step in and say, wait a minute, you're doing that all wrong. Here, get out of the way. Let me do it. It's just faster if I do it. Anybody ever tell you that? It's just faster if I do it, you know? Right? If this power could do that, you wouldn't be necessary. And if you weren't necessary, you would not exist. Because every blade of grass is necessary. So your role and my role is to occasionally make a mistake, to occasionally invest our feeling in something that's fruitless, to repeat that cycle a few times, maybe many times. We learn differently. While the God of our understanding stands back and just blesses the whole thing with unconditional love. That's tough to accept if you've been drilled in a religion. It gives you marching orders. It has a power that has a specific plan for your life. And by now you've already blown it. You know? You're not living up to that plan. When you were 3, you should have started. 2, 1, whatever, in the crib. But you didn't. You didn't know about it. Now here you are. What are you going to do? I was raised a Christian. Not so much by my family. Very little by my family. My family was eclectic, shall we say. But they sent me to religious schools, which were good, and I got a nice education, but I also got an indoctrination into a certain form of Christianity. And one of the things that used to bother me, a lot of things actually did. I didn't know why at the time, but looking back, I realized that I was just fish out of water. Fish out of lovely people, sweet people. Had some nice music too. But one of the songs that they sang that bothered me was Onward Christian Soldiers. Okay? Perky little tune and all. And I wasn't that great a student because I was bored a lot. But anyway, I did know this. Leafing through my Gospels, I saw no army around Jesus. I saw no weapons around Jesus. The disciples weren't this posse, you know. Everything was accomplished in peacefulness. Oh, he took a stand from time to time. He turned over the money changers' tables in the temple, you'll recall. But there was certainly no vision of world conquest and domination that I'm seeing. And I later realized this was religious and secular leaders of the Renaissance and Enlightenment areas that whipped, well, going back actually to the Crusades, pre-Renaissance, but that whipped all of this stuff up, that this is how you're supposed to be. Is go out there and find the unconverted. And if you can't change their minds, then maybe dispatch them. It's right there in the hymnal, folks. Marching as to war. What happens in war? These are not war games. This is war that's being marched to. I had an issue with that. I still do. So what I want to encourage you to do is take this teaching that we have here, realize that we're not in competition with anybody else. You know what? If we were, we lose. Right? We've already lost. We can't outplay, out-hustle, outrun anybody else. Good news is we don't want to. Further, we act as an adjunct to people's spiritual faith. I pass by a bunch of different, from my house, which is only 20 minutes from here, I pass by, 8 or 10 at least, other faith communities who meet on Sunday morning. People coming out of there, some of them have cops directing traffic. That's how busy they are. One of them's up here at the freeway, you know. And those people, some of those people turn up here on a Sunday to hear what else there is. Some of those people are watching right now to hear what else there is. Not to replace their faith, but to augment it, which is what Ernest Holmes, who I think I mentioned was our founder, what Ernest Holmes set out to do in the first place was not to replace any religion on earth, but to offer this teaching that augments your spiritual practice. But the big takeaway is to consider, like the man who converted to Judaism remembered from his grandfather, that everywhere you look is God. That as the song, beautiful Peter Mayer's song we've done here before, says, everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. It's all that. And that you are the beloved. You are the essence of the divine, having this experience of yourself in the moment. Anything you need to know about yourself will come up, arise to conscious awareness. If there's any pattern of belief in yourself or in life that's unhealthy to you, it will reveal itself. If there's any forgiveness work to be done, any stuff to be offloaded and let go of, that will make itself known. Okay? When you seek to know yourself, which is our summer assignment, to know yourself and to know that everybody else knows themselves, you know what happens is, oh my God, you get to. Will announce his name with a flourish at the right time. But he knows who he is. And I don't know if I said this to him when he started in prac training, because he's been doing it elsewhere, doing it online. But I should have, because I've said it to the people in past classes, is when you say to the universe, I wish to serve at a higher level than ever before, the floor opens beneath your feet, okay? Your whole world changes kaleidoscopically, because the universe is neutral, but gosh, is it responsive. And whatever you put out there with feeling, repetition, deep investment, you get to live. So when you say to the universe, tell me who I am, get ready. Because every common bush will be aflame with God. Those who see take off their shoes, all right? Everywhere you look will be that story coming back at you of who you are and where you've hidden your power along the way. One last line from our old friend Ursula Gestefeld, who in May was the topic. She says, when the mistaken self-idea is abandoned, when the mistaken, see, I'm not making this up. When the mistaken self-idea, what do? You abandon it. You don't have to spend all this time and money and effort reshaping it and convincing it and persuading it and all of that. You just abandon it, the mistaken self-idea. And like that, in a heartbeat, in a finger snap, all of a sudden, that third party steps through into your life, that source of your being, and it all begins again. A fresh start. Fresh start. Like our beloved Reverend Marcia got. But a different type for you and me. Because we're here doing this, but reborn today. Let's know together now. One life, one power, one presence. Pure spirit. Everywhere expressive, everywhere manifesting. I feel it within myself, and I assent to it. Yes, thank you. Thank you, infinite presence of life, Mother, Father, God, that this is so. Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful day. Yes, it's hot outside. That's okay. It's cool inside. That's okay too. It's summertime. We're heading toward Father's Day and Juneteenth, and in 9 days from now it'll be officially summer. Right where I stand, right where I'm placed in the midst of infinite power and infinite joy, this is a perfect place for me right now. And from this place, from this vantage point, I can see who I am. I can see who I choose to be. God loves me just as I am, but also as that which I am becoming. And as I abandon limiting beliefs about myself, it is as though they had never existed. as though they had no power whatsoever, because in truth they never did. But the power that I gave them by constantly revisiting them and claiming them as my own. Now I claim something higher and greater. That there is one life. That life is my source, and I am the emanation of that life in my daily experience. For me to see and embrace and to share with the world for this knowing and its rollout in form. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into that perfect universal law that always assents to it, takes it in and runs with it, and so it is.
Now we've come to giving time. So one thing I want to do is ask before we do anything else while our ushers make their way to the back, is there anyone here for the first time? Please let us know. Well, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. We definitely appreciate seeing all of your smiling faces again. If there's anyone here for the first time online, please let us know. You can message us in the chat. You can send us an email through info@creativelife.org, or you can send us a private message on Facebook Messenger. So any one of those are fine. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to thank you for your love and your support, your energy, your monetary donations. Just know that everything you give to this center is greatly appreciated. Everything you do for this center, we know is done with love, and we return that love. And with that, I invite you now to say with me, divine love. Through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. And
first of all, it's a really dangerous thing for a Saints of Mind minister to go through ordination, because look what happened to Reverend Lisa. It turned into me. First of all, some business. Monica Webb will be looking after the bookstore this morning. Sharon Minurate will be the practitioner online, and it's probably already in the chat, correct? And the practitioner of the day will actually be me this morning. So you get a treat if you want to look at it that way. You know, as a kid and as a teenager, I was brought up a Christian, just like Reverend Jesse was. And I was taught that, you know, we are here and God is out there, that God is completely separate from us. But then later on, when I started studying the mystics, I realized that's not what they were saying, whether it's Julian of Norris, Meister Eckhart, all of them. And not just Christian mystics, but mystics of any sort whatsoever. They will tell you that God is within. God is within, and God is divine, and God is everything. So as we come to the closing today, what I want to leave you with is the fact that you are divine emanations. You are truly expressions of the one source. And that whatever is going on in your life and whatever has gone on in your life up to this point doesn't matter unless it's helped you to get to this point. Because what matters is where you go from this point forward. And the best thing that you can do for your life is to be kind to yourself, to forgive yourself, and to know that God never ever condemned you, because God is unable to condemn you. So as we leave today, know with me that God is truly all there is. There is nothing outside of God. God is everything. And because of that, I am an individual expression of that one. Each and every person here and online and in this world is an expression. Everything that lives is an expression. And because of that, I can truly claim that I go forward from this point forward as a person who knows who they are. And I claim that for each and every single person online, every single person in this room, every single person who can't be present, and every other person. And I know going forward that God loves us, God is with us, and God is always supporting us. And because this is true, everything is It's just one expression. So I know the love of God lives within me. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us, because everywhere that we are, God is, and all is well. And I release this word with gratitude into the divine law, and I call it done and good, and so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose
I
it.
trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
And so it is.
And so it is.
I was like, oh, no stretch today. Okay.
That's good. Thank you.